What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope everybody's doing well. There's a lot going on in America, but we're going to stay positive. We're going to stay positive.
Boaz Atzili, thank you so much for joining us here on the Newsworthy.
It's my pleasure.
Can you take us back to that day, October 7th, 2023? What do you remember about first hearing the news and what the community experienced?
So, I've been here in the US when I'm looking at my phone and I see like hundreds of messages on WhatsApp and everybody are panicking. And it's not only Aviv and Liad, but most of my family actually live in this area, in the area that oftentimes called the Gaza envelope, like close to the border with Gaza. So that includes my dad, who's 91 and not really well, and that includes like all my wife's family and everybody out there. So basically we try to reach everybody to see if they're okay, what's going on, and the news was completely crazy and weird and unbelievable. So obviously we were very worried about everybody. We managed to get to talk to some people, but not to others. And it looked like the communication with Aviv and Liad had been lost. But it took a while until it was clear that they are not in Israel, and that later on was confirmation that they are hostages in Gaza.
I'm so sorry that you all experienced that. What has the past 2 years been like for your family? And then, what is your take on the war today, 2 years later?
So the past 2 years obviously been like incredibly hard because it's the family and it's so many friends and people from that area, and for several months at the beginning basically all the family was displaced. But very early on I understood that the main obstacle to get all the hostages back home and to end this terrible war is the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the government as a whole, but first and foremost Netanyahu. So the struggle then becomes not only struggle against the terrorist organization that attacked and killed and kidnapped people from your community, but against the Prime Minister of Israel. And I'm living in the US, but I am still a citizen of Israel as well. And it becomes just a horrible devastation, and it's very hard to take, especially like being Israeli and the government of your own country is doing that. Get into my kind of professional hat. It's not only not helping Israel's national security long-term interests, it's hurting it.
Because of international support?
Because of
welcome to the room, y'all. Thank y'all for joining.
That's one thing. And
hope
Israel
you're having
is,
a good.
in the end,
hope you're having a good Monday.
That depends on international support. It depends on international trade, etc. But also because if he wants to.
Thank you for joining.
Hamas
Yolanda, thank you for joining.
Because it's not only the organization.
Lincoln, thank you for joining the room.
But if he wants to,
appreciate it.
Hamas is doing the.
Hope everybody's doing all right. We got a lot going on in the world right now. So I pray that everybody's you're in good health. Just overall, just doing good, There's just so much going on in the world. Just curious to know, people that's in the room, what part of the world are you located? Are you in the U.S.? Be out of the country? If you don't mind, put your country or city or state you're located in. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. Just like to know where some of the subscribers are at. Just curious to know. Yeah, I'm just driving right now. I got a long drive. So I figure I'd just go ahead and stream. We'll just talk. Make sure people doing good. you know. We got to stay in good spirits with all the stuff that's going on right now in the world. Cook, I'm in the United States. What about yourself? Yeah, what about yourself? Yeah, I found out this morning. I can't remember. I think it was Oregon. Some state that I'm very shocked that we have another military that's there to protect the state. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Oh, you're in the United States? Okay, what part where in the United States? What city? What state? With all this stuff going on in America, potentially getting ready to go to war, and I'm hoping it's not going to happen. I just think people should start preparing themselves and their families, you know, even if it's just something as simple as cases of water at the house. Maybe a 72-hour food supply. Let's just say, you know, you never know what can come out of this. We'll just say power go out, backup power, solar generator, regular generator with some gas. Medication, you know, people, if you're on medication, it's a situation where you can't really get out and get medication. Just being prepared for that. Backup communication, you know, in the event that we power grid goes down and cell phones, you know, maybe 4G towers or something to hit, you know, having a backup ham radio, CB radio, even if it's just something as a regular two-way radio, but you know, that's just so you can communicate with your neighbor. Yeah. Just got a lot going on. It's not looking good. It's really not. And there's no need to panic. You gotta prepare. I believe in redundancy. Backup for the backup. You know? Especially if you live in a cold state where heat is important. You know, and fall right now, but you know, December's right around the corner, so it started getting a little cold here. You know. Also, check on your loved ones. You know, if anybody hadn't had a chance to check on somebody, check on your loved ones. Make sure they are all right. Make sure they don't need anything. Make sure, you know, check on your elders. Definitely check on your elders. You got to make sure that they good. I'm going to make sure that I spend more time doing that as well, or maybe volunteering my time to get out and help out when I can. You know, we need that sense of community. You know, I don't see that anymore versus when I was growing up. You know, going to check on, I don't know, Mr. Wilson that's down the street that may not be able to get out the house. You know, just check on him. Make sure that he's okay. Maybe he might need help moving something, or maybe he need a lift to the grocery store. You know, I want to work on that from my standpoint. You know, being more active in the community. Yeah, this weekend I was talking to a few friends, and we was talking about the youth and how, you know, a lot of the youth got the energy, but they don't know how to redirect it. You know, being part of that, helping them out, you know, helping them get their ideas out, you know, help motivate them, you know. America needs community right now. You know, I hate to say it, the hatred has been here too long. You know, until we realize God made us all. You know, they have divided us to the lowest common denominator. If we don't look at each other as equal, black, white, Chinese, Asian, Mexican, whatever, if we don't start looking at each other as one, this genocide and hatred just continue to keep going, you know. And we have the power to stop that by simply just helping one another out, you know. For those that know, about a few months ago, I had an opportunity to go to Ghana, and what I loved about the experience, I saw a lot of community. Felt safe there. Felt like I was at home. You know, I never forget being in a certain community. It was late at night, and I was watching these kids run around. It might have been 11, 12 o'clock at night. You know, barely even got lights on, but you know, you can see just a little light here from a house, neighbor's house. And, you know, you may have seen like a 5 or 6 year old kid running around. And I immediately was asked my friends, like, man, where their parents at? And first thing he told me was like, man, they're safe here. You know, that's amazing. Where you live in a world like that, where the community is still protecting the kids, even though the parents is in the house, they can run around like that. America has got so big that they have lost that. They have lost the sense of community, where you quote unquote love your neighbor as your own. That right there has gradually disappeared, you know. from allowing, you know, I don't understand how. And a lot of people may say, "Man, when you always talking bad about America," no, I'm just telling you what we experience, and if we don't talk about it, it won't get fixed. For example, how is it fit for us to eat 3D printed food, 3D printed meat? If anyone doesn't know about this, they're selling fake meat now. A lot of the lamb chops and stuff like that that you get out of the store, and you guys can do your research on it. I've seen videos of people making eggs from the shell, from injecting a fake egg with resin. Man, it's just crazy. You know, how is that good for America? Is it with all the money in America? You mean to tell me it's okay for us to make 3D printed meat? Fake meat. That's what it is. And it's for consumption. It's not good, y'all. But I do feel like we have the power as individuals to either get with a local farmer, local butcher. It's time to start patronizing, you know, the little people. Not necessarily the little people, but the local people, instead of these big corporations that's just only doing it for a paycheck. You know, it's time to even start a garden. If you got an opportunity, you got some land on your property, you know, plant some vegetables. You know, do some research on your climate and find out what's the best thing to grow, or, you know, and if you don't have the ability to grow, maybe donate some seeds to somebody that has the ability to grow. And that way you work together. Work together. Community is definitely needed right now because it's a lack of it. You know, we got U.S. soldiers now in a predicament where they're quote unquote protecting us. We got an army now that's on our soil that's protecting us. Yep, that's a good thing if you're really protecting us. But you should be protecting us for outside influences, not your own youth. You know? That's important right now. You know, we used to be back in the day where, you know, you had certain family members that looked out for you in the neighborhood. So if you was somewhere you wasn't supposed to be, they'd tell you in a minute, "Hey, aren't you so and so son? What you doing over here?" And they'll get on the phone and call and say, "Hey, you know he over here, blah blah blah." That was community. America has more guns and more killings than anywhere. I understand, you know, being able to bear arms is important. But when we have these mass shootings where some kid don't got a hold to some assault rifle, AR-15, and we got people that has the ability to tote a firearm legally. When this stuff happens, where are the people that legally is able to tote a firearm stopping this mess? We got too many guns in America for when stuff like that happens, instead of continue having these mass shootings. Yeah, it's something else.
This is your official Air Force Academy history.
Thank you for joining the room. I appreciate it. Hit that that thumbs up button if you don't mind. I appreciate you joining. Happy Monday. Hope you're doing well.
Pilot died supporting Operation Desert Shield. His name appears on the Graduate War Memorial on the Academy Terrazzo. Also on this day, back in 2006, the Academy football team defeats New Mexico 24-7 at Falcon Stadium in the first game played on the newly installed field turf. The artificial surface covered 84,480 square feet, with an additional 26,520 square feet of natural grass surrounding it. The project cost $750,000. For the latest video for cadets by cadets, follow us on YouTube at USAFA Official.
Thank you for joining the room. If it's your first time here, do me a favor, hit that like button. Happy Monday. I hope everybody's well. We're just talking about what's going on in the world today. And I feel like this is the time people should get prepared, because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, hopefully, this thing does not turn into no crazy war, but if it does, you got to prepare for it. We don't know how it will pan out. Now, most people probably think, war would end up like people going and bombing and stuff like that, and that probably would happen as well. But me being in the IT field, I think the attack would be different. I think it'd be cyber. I think bank accounts, banks would get shut down. Cyber crimes would get higher. People hacking into certain systems. If you can't have access to your bank account, that you got a bad day. And it happens.
This is your official Air Force Academy history update for Tuesday, September 30th. On this day, back in 1990, Major Peter Hood, class of 76, was killed when his F-15E.
Fox News
Fox Times, Sue Gussman, a federal judge temporarily blocking the Trump administration from sending National Guard troops to Oregon, including the California National Guard. California and Oregon sought the temporary restraining order after the president sent Guard members California to Oregon earlier in the day. Meanwhile, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker announced on X the president plans to deploy 400 members of the Texas National Guard. Illinois, Oregon, and other states. He says no one from the federal government called him to discuss or coordinate. Israel and Hamas set to meet Monday for indirect talks to end the war in Gaza and release the remaining hostages.
One key snag could be disarming Hamas. The organization has not said it will agree to give up its rockets or its rifles. Israeli officials say that's going to happen either through diplomacy or through the use of military force.
This is Steve Harrigan. America's listening to Fox News.
It's Will Take Country. Watch it live at noon Eastern, Monday through Thursday at foxnews.com or on the Fox News YouTube channel. And don't miss the show. Listen and follow the podcast 5 days a week at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. Listen to this newscast ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is Saturday, October 4th. We're just days away from the 2-year mark of the Hamas attack on Israel and the start of the deadly war in Gaza that continues today. Just this week, a new deal was proposed to end the war. As we discuss this today, I do want to acknowledge the various and very strong opinions different people have about this topic. It's not an easy one to talk about, but we believe it's still important to do so. So we reached out to today's guest for both his professional and his personal connection to this war. We also wanted to highlight a voice that reflects the complexity of this moment, that it's not only pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian. Dr. Boaz Atzili is a professor at American University School of International Service. His research has long focused on territorial conflict and border politics, and he's written extensively on Israel and security policy. And his family has also been directly affected. His cousin, Aviv Atzili, was among those killed on October 7th, 2023. Aviv's remains were taken, though Israeli Defense Forces recovered his body in Gaza months later. His wife, Leah, is an Israeli-American who was taken hostage into Gaza. After weeks in captivity, she was released in a hostage deal. Boaz Atzili is here to reflect on the impact of that day 2 years ago for his family and the world, the ongoing costs and consequences of the war, and what he sees as possible paths forward for Israelis, for Palestinians, and for the region as a whole. Welcome to the Newsworthy Special Edition Saturday, when we sit down with a different expert or celebrity every Saturday to talk about something in the news. Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for our regular episodes, where we provide all the day's news in 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. It's now time for today's Special Edition Saturday. Boaz Atzili, thank you so much for joining us here on the Newsworthy.
It's my pleasure.
Can you take us back to that day, October 7th, 2023? What do you remember about first hearing the news and what the community experienced?
So, I've been here in the US and I'm looking at my phone and I see like hundreds of messages on WhatsApp and everybody. And it's not only Aviv and Liat, but most of my family actually live in this area, in the area that oftentimes called the Gaza envelope, like close to the border with Gaza. So that includes my dad, who's 91 and not really well, and that includes like all my wife's family and everybody out there. So basically, reach everybody to see if they're okay, what's going on, and the news was completely crazy and weird and unbelievable. So obviously we were very worried about everybody. We managed to get to talk to some people, but not to others. And it looked like the communication with Aviv and Liat a bit lost, but it took a while until it was clear that they're not in Israel, and that later on was confirmation that they are hostages in Gaza.
I'm so sorry that you all experienced that. What has the past 2 years been like for your family? And then, what is your take on the war today, 2 years later?
So the past 2 years obviously been like incredibly hard because it's the family and it's so many friends and people you know from that area, and for several months at the beginning, basically all the family was displaced. But very early on, I understood that the main obstacle to get all the hostages back home and to end this terrible war is the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the government as a whole, but first and foremost Netanyahu. So the struggle then becomes not only struggle against a terrorist organization that attacked and killed and kidnapped people from your community, but against the Prime Minister of Israel. And I'm living in the US, but I am still a dual citizen of Israel as well. And it becomes